Everybody, I'd like to welcome you here this evening to a block of crypto. Tonight is hosted by myself and Simon. We do have a Telegram group. If you're not already in the Telegram group, we'll drop a link in the chat now in a few minutes. Please do go ahead and join. We are also recording this evening's show, and it will be made available as a replay on our website and on YouTube. If you don't want to appear on camera, feel free to switch to avatar. You'll find that down in the video option where you have stop video. There's an option to select an avatar, or alternatively, just like Simon's demonstrating for us there, or alternatively, you can just turn your camera off as well. Nothing that we say here tonight is financial advice either. So just our code of conduct, as always, we just asked everybody just to be nice, to be aware of others, be friendly and patient, to be welcoming and respectful, to be open to all questions and viewpoints, to be understanding of differences, and to be kind and considerate to others. So our upcoming meetups, next Thursday, we're back here again. So we'll have had 3 meetups in a row on the Thursday because we've had a few extra things going on. And we'll be back for a general crypto chat, but we'll be also having a chat that night on putting a proposal into VBetterDAO on sustainability, a community proposal. So it's going to be an open conversation. If anybody has ideas that we could put forward, let's put our heads together and as a community get a project in there. Then we'll be also back here on Tuesday, the 14th of May with the UK group and Simon at 7 o'clock. So just to remind everybody to head over and visit our website. We've got free courses, a blog, a newsletter. We've got our great Excel tracker, and we also have discounts and deals on wallets and tax trackers and stuff like that. And then finally, don't forget to support us. We do have our supporter NFTs that are ranging from, I don't know, they're as little as about $8 at the moment. And they just help go towards running the community, rebranding the website that we're hopefully doing and all that sort of stuff. If you want to collaborate with us, do reach out to us. If you want to host your own regional meetup, also feel free to reach out to us as well. So on that, I am going to stop sharing and just welcome everybody else that's after coming into the room, because I see lots more faces have come in while I was talking there. So welcome to everybody that's here. I see Simon's also dropped all the links in that I was talking about too. So what we have this evening, we actually have somebody on with us this evening, and I've mentioned this to most of you before. Just before I do the introduction, just general, we don't tend to shield projects here. We never do paid shields or anything like that here. Everybody that we bring on, we have invited on because we've already gone out and vetted their project, or one of the community have gone out and vetted their project and think it's good. So if you have projects that you'd like to bring on, do come and talk to me and Simon, and we can go out and we can talk to them. So without any further ado, I would very much like to welcome, and I'm privileged to welcome Christopher Perceptions here with us today. Christopher is in the Bitcoin community. He's the author of a book called The Secrets of Satoshi, Understanding Bitcoin. He has a super amazing newsletter, which I recommend everybody signs up to as well. I'm going to drop links to these into the chat. And he's also the CEO of NoCodeClarity. And that's why we have him on here this evening. I've already kind of mentioned she's all what NoCodeClarity is, but on that, I'm actually going to pass it straight over to Christopher and he can explain himself.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Paula, Simon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all and really, really excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for the past few days, actually. I've been traveling. I was at Harvard for 2 days for a hackathon, and that was pretty intense as a mentor and judge. Then was in New York for a little bit, and this was like the highlight of my week. So I'm really, really excited. I think any founder, any team is going to tell you if they're truly trying to build something of value, that this is like the bread and butter. Meeting the community, meeting people that could be interested in building on whatever it is that you're launching, or just have similar ideals. This is where the heart and soul of everything lies. So I'm super honored and privileged to be before you all, and I appreciate your time. What I want to do is just give a little bit of context to our time and also what it is that NoCodeClarity actually is. So aside from being a cool name with a cool color, it has a lot of substance behind it. So we're going to do this, and then we're also going to do a live demo of the platform of NoCodeClarity, which launched on April 30th in a private beta. So internally, we've been calling it a V0. Things change generally within betas. As we see with ChatGPT, most people kind of forget that since it's had global spread, but ChatGPT is still a beta, which is very interesting. Oh, there we go. So, betas, things can change a lot with it, but with this, I wanted to give context. So in reference to our time, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the story of NoCodeClarity, which also deals with my story, what the focus is, the team. Then we're going to get into the demo as it stands now with the V0. We're going to talk about the roadmap, which we are clear into next year for. So we have benchmarks and certain things that we'll be hitting quarterly, as well as how you can gain access now. So with this, I'm going to start by saying if you want the free-flowing kind of chronological flow of the story of NoCodeClarity, this is a QR code for you to scan. It's also available on LinkedIn. If you go on LinkedIn and search up NoCodeClarity, it's one of the first newsletter posts that we've done there. So you'll have the ability to see oversight with hyperlinks where you can click and really follow our journey. We've been around since 2022, and we created the world's first no-code Stacks wallet, which was extremely difficult back then. But it allowed for us to see that there was an interest within the space of bridging Web3 and Web3 layers, such as Bitcoin layers, in no-code environments where people can spin up applications quicker, or non-technical people can actually have a seat at the table. We also launched a no-code hackathon called No Code Hacking, and that took place in partnership with Miami-Dade College. We partnered with them, they hosted us, and we gave away prizes. And in 3 days, we taught people who thought that they needed to raise millions or hundreds of thousands in venture capital what they can leverage if they just go from 0 to 1 or from idea to 0, because I think we put a lot of emphasis on needing to build something, build something. And yes, you do need to build. And depending on how complex your idea is, that's where price points can generally go from an average MVP is like $30,000 on up to millions, especially if you look at iOS apps, Android apps, etc. But if you had to just strip down your idea and say, if you were in an elevator with Elon Musk or Mark Cuban or some other investor, and they needed a proof of concept, could you build that? 99% of the time, right where you are, you could build it. And for people that I've taught, I always tell them it doesn't have to be pretty at first, it just has to be functional. So we taught people how to build functional things and how to beautify afterwards. And within 3 days, people's lives were changed. So we're really, really excited to bring that back. And we're going to be hosting that very soon. So that's a little alpha that I haven't released yet, but figured this was a proper time to release that. And then also, we talked about some of the things that we've built along with the no-code Stacks wallet. We also have a plugin. We did some things with Filecoin, kind of exploring doing R&D, which is research and development, to see if what we ultimately wanted to build was even possible. And then we found out that it was. And part of the reason why people weren't building it is because it's very, very cumbersome, slightly difficult to make robust blockchains play nicely and modularly within no-code environments where they can be scaled as components. So one of the first offerings that was a little larger is a tool called RaiseSats, which is in a beta of its own and going through a refresh later this year. It's a tool that allows for people to crowdfund Bitcoin through WhatsApp. So in a non-custodial manner, a person could have an X-First wallet, their WhatsApp number, they can bridge them together, just connecting through our platform one time. And then they'll be able to spin up campaigns that people all over the world will be able to donate to, and vice versa. So we're really, really excited about that. And it's worth noting that we are bootstrapping. So we are a small and scrappy team, I like to say. And our journey in 2022 started as a grant for roughly $15,000 worth of stacks at that particular point. And then after creating this plugin, it allowed for us to go to a different level. So we received a much larger grant from the Stacks Foundation. So they're one of our biggest supporters, and they enabled us to do a lot. So forever grateful for the Stacks Foundation. And this is a glimpse of what the NoCode wallet looks like, where people can download this template, they can customize it, they can integrate it within their applications. And this is live now. You're able to create this just simply by typing in a password. It assigns a secret phrase to that password in a no-code way, so it's frictionless. And then people are able to generate new accounts. They're able to send stacks, receive stacks, all SIP 10 tokens. They can see a list of transactions. They can even create integrations based off of this, leveraging API keys. So it's a really, really robust offering, and it's open source and free. Lastly, the team. So I am the CEO, Sergio is CTO, and Shakala is a full stack dev, and we make up the current iteration of NoCodeClarity. We are through and through very passionate about the things that we're building, and more times than not, there's not really a roadmap for what it is that we're trying to build. So I have this saying, success leaves clues, but love leaves blueprints. It's generally hard to glean information from places where the information doesn't exist. I think of it like this: when Noah in the Bible, the great flood, Noah, when Noah got the digital schematics or download from God, like this is how you build the ark. Did Noah have a coach? Like, how do I build this thing? It's like some of the stuff that we're getting, some of the stuff that we're doing, we haven't necessarily seen before. But in the multitude of counsel, every plan is sure. So between us three, we've been able to ideate and build things, and we have a really cool year ahead of us. So really, really proud of these guys and proud to know them. Now, all of the pleasantries and whatnot aside, I want to get into the nitty gritty of why should you consider building with no code. There are many reasons why, but I'll give a personal story outside of professional things. I've been in the space of Bitcoin for basically a decade, but before that, I was actually a professional artist. So exhibiting in galleries, museums, spoken word performing artists. I've done things with ESPN3, National Christian Foundation, NBA, etc. So how I got there ultimately started from being born in a traumatic environment. I'm kind of dating myself here, but when I first got exposed to programming, it was through Dreamweaver. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can really go all the way with this thing. And I started teaching myself how to trade stocks and how to code using HTML and CSS when I was like 10. The old school way, like just opening a book, trying to learn and then apply it. But in my environment, there were a lot of gunshots going off and a lot of volatility, police sirens every night, dead bodies in garbage cans, like some crazy stuff that kids just shouldn't grow up around. So it was very hard for me to focus on that by way of technology. I knew that technology was a scaling agent, but due to those years that I lost, if you will, because of just trying to live and survive in a very crazy environment, art was the thing that kind of saved my life, because it gave me not only a therapeutic outlet, but it allowed for me to understand how things can bridge. And then when Bitcoin came around, I read the white papers roughly 10 years ago, changed my life. And then the technology aspect of me reactivated. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's something here. Not only from the standpoint of Bitcoin as a store of value, but maybe we can build on this thing. Started digging, saw that it was possible, saw that it was cumbersome. It's like, okay, well, what if we had Bitcoin smart contracts? And then started digging. That's how I found the Stacks ecosystem roughly 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And I started wondering again, like, okay, is there a way to make things frictionless for people? Because if we are able to make things frictionless for people, there is an economic incentive to that. They're stating that by way of Red Hat, no code cuts development time by 90%. So if someone has an MVP that they want to build out, it's generally going to take at least 2 to 4 months before they're able to ship anything, as opposed to having a no code environment. which can cut that time by 90%. And any investor, any top tier founder will tell you that speed to market is important. If you're ideating and building something in stealth, that's one thing. Of course, you have all of the time in the world. But once you receive investment from someone, the clock is ticking because they're looking for certain benchmarks, certain returns. If you're bootstrapping, all the more the time is ticking because at any given moment, Facebook or Twitter or some other incumbent in the tech space could take your idea and run with it. So no code actually is a democratizing agent for not only technical people, but also non-technical people, people who might have a tech background, but maybe they're not all the way where they would like to be. This is an equalizing agent. So this is two reasons technically to build with no code in general. And then also it's empowering. The fact that we live in a very technological world where things are rapidly moving, it changes everything to know that less than 1% of the world knows how to code. So there's a huge opportunity, not only with like boot camps that might charge money or hackathons where you have to stay up for several hours and you know how to code. So there's a market and a pathway for you to get money, or even as a freelancer on Upwork. But for the 99% of the world, there's a huge opportunity because if you know no code in general, then you're going to be able to compete with 1% of the world, which is amazing. And it puts skin in the game for people who have ideas. They can map things out, they can create diagrams and schemas, but they just don't necessarily know their way around a terminal. No code is going to be a great democratizing agent for you. And this is where we're going to get into the V0 of this platform called NoCodeClarity, where it allows for you to sign up or log in, especially if you have the lifetime pass, which we'll get into a little bit later. It's going to allow for you to prompt create a front end. We're going to do a brief demonstration by way of video of what it looks like to create a backend without code, and then also Clarity smart contracts and what it looks like to deploy this. So at this stage, what we have live for our early supporters, we call them OGs, they are ideating and tinkering around with this now. And I'm excited to give you all a glimpse and a sneak peek. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And actually, I'll pause to see if there are any questions in chat before I switch to the demo. So let me see.
There isn't any questions in chat right now, but
Okay.
just while you're pausing, what I would like to say, if anybody's not reading the chat, that we do have a competition. We're going to be doing a random draw. So if you have a Stacks wallet, please do drop it into the chat there, and I'm going to pull them all and stick them into the randomizer. Sorry, Christopher. And if anybody has a question now, please do jump on and ask Christopher.
Yep, I'm just logging in. So if there's any questions, I will take them now. I will start counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Oh,
Christopher
hand
had his
raised.
hand
Okay.
up. Chris got his hand up. He got in there. Go on, Chris.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right, thanks, Chris, for presenting. Do you have many competitors in the sector? Or are you the only one first in no code?
Yeah, great question. So no code in general is a multi-billion-dollar space where it ultimately ideates or helps automate ideation and get applications launched quicker. So there's actually a three-step flow. So there's traditional programming, which, you know, coders, terminals, IDEs, etc. And then there's low code, where it's like this hodgepodge way of saying, hey, maybe I'm using boilerplate to launch an application. That's kind of the low code space. No code in general, it is creating a frictionless environment for things to be launched quicker. And that can have UI, UX, drag and drop components. That can be leveraging AI like we are, which leads me to directly answering your question. Within our niche of Bitcoin layers and no code, we are among first movers. If we were to say removing the Bitcoin niche layer, because our main focus is Stacks, Lightning, and Bitcoin at the L1 level, just saying Web3 in general, there are some competitors. So Third Web is one that comes to mind. at this point, and they are more on the EVM side of things, which obviously has a lot more interest from the standpoint of investors. But there's now this turning tide of interest where we see with ordinals, with runes, with Bitcoin layers such as stacks, there's a lot of sovereign wealth funds that are beginning to become interested in Bitcoin. There's a lot of high net worth individuals, high fashion brands, high luxury brands like Bugatti. They're starting to do collections on the L1 by way of ordinals. So there's something to be said about being able to create frictionless opportunities on the hardest money that the world has ever seen, which is also the most decentralized blockchain that the world has ever seen, which is also the oldest blockchain in recent memory. So with that stated, we are pioneering and creating a pathway, and we're really excited to do so. But I see that there's some other hands up as well. Chris, you were speaking, so I will let you go, and then we will take Nash, and then I'll get into the demo.
Excellent.
Hey Chris, yeah, pleasure to be here and listen to you, and your story is actually really interesting of where you come from. But I was just going to ask you, when it comes to other chains, I know you're fully focused on Bitcoin, sounding like a bit of a Bitcoin maxi, which makes complete sense as well, I think, when you go down the rabbit hole. But I just wanted to know your thoughts on other chains, other coins, learning about that. Are you sort of anti anything else, or are you sort of still a little bit open, or what's your thoughts on that, or just from a educational standpoint rather than a shilling crypto part, more just the grid level of the blockchain sort of understanding?
Yeah, of course. I appreciate that question. I think that there's a stigma. Some of it is like maybe influencer related. Some of it is like maybe people got burned in previous cycles and now they're only talking Bitcoin. I look at it a little bit differently. I think that it's a multi-chain world because we all have been blessed with free will, so people are going to choose and do what they want. If they want to, go full on into meme coins, then who's stopping them? This is a decentralized space, so I think people should have the luxury and the opportunity to do whatever they want, and that's going to require different outputs and different blockchains and different use cases. So I'm not opposed to other things existing. I think that for me, I'm more focused on things that have longevity and staying power. So just given my background, as you mentioned, I've come, toe to toe with many near-death experiences, but that's a much longer story. So I'm very much so aware of mortality and the fact that we can always get more money, but we can never get more time. So if I'm trying to spend my time on something that has staying power, something that's gonna outlive me, something that is a solid foundation to build upon, my first thought is Bitcoin. I can find nuances within other chains like Ethereum or Solana, but I also can find certain benefits. The fact that Solana is extremely fast, that's something to consider if a person is a high frequency trader. If I were to look at Ethereum, the fact that they are really a platform for experimentation, but I also know history, and I know the fact that Vitalik wanted to build Ethereum on Bitcoin, but due to not getting approval from or a general consensus, I should say, from those who were in Bitcoin early, Vitalik moved on and made Ethereum. But a lot of the things that were happening on Ethereum are now beginning to move to other chains, such as the L1, such as Bitcoin L2s. So I'm open to various chains, but at least for me, my focus is to bare minimum start on Bitcoin. And if other chains or integrations come, that's for the future to show us. But hopefully that answers your question.
It really did. No, it's just nice to sort of still see you have an open mind, because I do speak to some people and they're like super like just Bitcoin only. So it's just nice to see that you still are somewhat understanding other chains out there and how they might somewhat, and I say that very, very loosely, have a sort of legacy based pathway as well. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, of course. And there's something to even be said about, the concept of a blockchain. Like if we were to strip it down, what is a blockchain? A blockchain is just a database. It is blocks of data strung together securely like a chain. So does everything need an extremely decentralized database? Not necessarily, but some things would greatly benefit from it. And one thing that we're going to get into now actually is the demo. And we are going to create a very simple UI and a very simple Clarity Smart contract for voting. So I think voting is one of those things where if we were able to streamline it and make it a little easier, it would change a lot, especially if there's a transparency element to it. And obviously with Bitcoin, it's extremely transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, let me go back. So this is V0 of NoCodeClarity. And what it does is it allows for you to create by leveraging AI a front end. But it's a little different. It's not just I'm going to type in what I want and then it's going to give me some code and then I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it and then I'm going to do something else with it. It gives you a sample view of what it is that the code is going to look like, basically what you're building. And then on the backend side, it allows for you to streamline your data. So if we were to look at traditional development, you're going to have to deal with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on the front end. You're going to have to deal with some sort of server and some sort of database on the back end. And then if you add the Web3 element, then there's a smart contract language involved. So that's roughly 6 elements just to launch a simple application in a Web3 environment. So if we can abstract some of that complexity and make it easy, how valuable would that be to people? Obviously, it saves 90% of time and money. So I think that that would be somewhat valuable. So what we're going to do is we are going to simply customize. I have copied a prompt, but I'm actually going to scale it down. Create a voting landing page where users can vote. And then I'm going to hit send. We're going to see the bar at the top move in. And then not only do I have a code viewer, but it also has a UI view of what this thing is going to look like. Now, again, considering this is V0, every prompt that is placed in, it is obviously secure. So it's not like we're taking IP, but the fact that there's an AI running on this, the more usage that it gets, the smarter that it will be. And then by next year, we're going to have drag and drop UI components available for people. So it's truly going to be a pristine no code opportunity. But most people hear the word no code and they think that they can kind of be lazy or lackadaisical. Not in our community. We, by design, want you all to see what the code looks like so that you can begin to familiarize yourself with code, even if you never become a programmer. We want you to think like a programmer still. So this is where this setup is currently at. So now if I wanted to, I can simply copy the code, I can paste it somewhere, I can save the code. And then once I save the code, I can go back. If I hate the code, I can just simply hit the button reset, which was there, and then move on. Now, if I wanted to create a backend where all of this data would streamline and live, all I would have to do is hit add backend. I can customize. And there are 2 options here. One is called Bubble. The other is called Airtable. Bubble is a generalist no-code platform. Most people probably hear about Webflow, Zapier, Bubble. It's kind of in the ranking of those level of companies, but it allows for us to take the code that we just prompted and I can simply have an API key and an API workflow link. And all of that might sound new to some of you all, but the cool thing is we have a tutorial on how that would look. So you have your template created, you simply click the template, and then the template is based off of what was just created within NoCodeClarity. So then you can go to Bubble, you can create a new application. And then as you do that, you're going to hit get started within Bubble. And then the application is going to continue on being built. With this, as you're building it, any sort of data that you want sent to Bubble would automatically streamline. So we're just going to go through the process. We're going to skip the assistant. And now we see that we have full visibility into Bubble. So I'm going to keep from clicking the screen so it doesn't pause. can go to settings of Bubble, hit API, and in a few clicks, we'll have everything that we need. So there's an API route that we would need to have activated. We would have to create a token. We would have to label that token. Then, little typo there. Then after this token is created, all we would have to do is copy it, and then we would paste it. Then after this, we would need to create the workflow link. So we would go to backend workflows, which is something that Bubble offers. We would create a new one, and then we would be able to simply type in test or whatever the name of the workflow would be. After that, there are certain nuances that as you become more privy to APIs and whatnot, you might want to update. Then once you click detect data, there's going to be a link to copy. You could have manual definitions. You can get really interestingly crazy with it if you'd like, but it allows for you to integrate directly your Bubble application to NoCodeClarity so that the data can literally be streamlined. So whether you use the front end component of what NoCodeClarity offers, or you just want more control of your data with some tweaks, this is a really good offering for you. And then we can see that it went and the implementation is complete. So all of this allows us to streamline backend data in a no-code environment. And then there's the other one, which gives even more flexibility and customization to data, which is Airtable. Not too many people realize this, but with Airtable, you actually can build applications on top of it. Certain people have built applications on top of Google Sheets. So since Google is a little cumbersome in general, and most people have used Airtable, we wanted to offer that integration. So a person can go to Airtable, they can start from scratch. They'll be able to then say, hey, I want to rename this table. The name is going to be then fed to NoCodeClarity. And then after that, hit save. Then we're going to be able to say, hey, I have this template. I'm going to need this API key. So go to Developer Hub, I'm going to simply go through the developer section. I'm going to click Create Token. I'm going to type in that token name. And then after I do this, it's going to give me the option based off of what I would like to do. If I want to create, edit, or delete and other components, then I can add the table that we just created from scratch. And it's going to be uniquely associated with that table. So boom, I'm not doing any sort of coding here. I'm just reading, I'm copying, I'm pasting, I'm hitting done. So it's making things move a little quicker from the standpoint of backend data management. Then if I want, I can enter the table name, which would be extremely helpful. And then there's one more step here. I have to have the app key available. So that app key is going to be directly associated with Airtable, this specific table. And then once I paste that in, I'm going to hit save, and then I'm good. So all of this may be new for some, but that's why we wanted to build it directly in to show that, yes, it is possible to build no-code front ends, but also to streamline no-code backends. Now, the last component that I'm really excited about sharing is the ability for prompt creation of self-auditing smart contracts. So obviously you want to make sure that if you're doing something for testing, that's fine. But if you're going to deploy in a production environment, which is basically like mainnet or going live, you might want to look into having this properly audited from another set of eyes. So with that, we do have some partners within our ecosystem where once we get to that point, we can point people directly to. But for now, we're just going to hit customize, similar environment as the front end. And I'm going to say, I want to create a voting contract where users can vote. I'm going to hit send. our AI, which is called HyperClarity AI, coupled with another AI called AI Auditor. I've said AI like 3 times in one sentence. It's going to allow for you to see the code. And then it also is going to ask for more information so that it can make it more robust. So this is by what I mean by saying it's self-auditing, not only from the standpoint of making it more secure, but really pulling at your mind and saying, hey, how more descriptive can you be? So let's say I'm cool with just this and I want to just simply copy it. Then I'm going to go back. Then I can hit deploy. Deploy is going to open up what's known as the sandbox. The sandbox is something that developers use to ideate and tinker around with things. So it's going to go directly to where you can literally paste in code or code in here and deploy your smart contract to the blockchain. So I'm just going to type in vote. I'm going to hit Command A, delete, Command V, because I'm on Mac just for clarity. Then I'm going to delete the top part. I'm going to delete the bottom part. And now I have a smart contract. So within literally 10 minutes, I could be on testnet testing this thing out to see if this thing works. And not only did it create the code, but again, since we want you to think like a programmer, it's teaching you exactly what it is. So define a map to store the votes. So if I was brand new to Clarity, I could bare minimum understand that these 2 lines of code, I'm storing something here. I can dig even deeper and say, wait a minute, data. And then obviously with the sandbox, it's going to give you a little bit more definition around what it is that you have. So this is a variable, and that variable is called votes. And it's going to give you a specific number based off of that. The function here is going to allow for users to vote. It's a public function, and it has certain things associated with that. This function is going to get the total votes for a candidate. The AI assumes that since you're talking about voting, perhaps it's political, so it created candidate. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want it to say user. And you can tweak that as you see fit. And then if you want, you can hit deploy, and then it's good to go, all within a no-code environment. So this is a brief demo of what we currently have. We do have some people that are already starting to tinker. I'm watching our AI usage go up. So that's really, really exciting for us. And we're actively working on this thing. So imagine this as a construction site where we say, pardon our dust, but we're still actively building this thing out. I want to go right back to the presentation. So just give me 1 second here so that we can dig into the weeds of the roadmap. And then I'm happy to get into any sort of questions. So we should be back to the presentation. Thanks for the confirmation. By the way, Paula is one of our mods in our console, which we will get into. So she's been a day 1 supporter, her along with a gentleman in the Stacks community called Mr. Wagme. So really appreciate Paula and Mr. Wagme for joining us early on this journey. We got a lot of work to do, but we're built for it, and we're in for the long haul to make things easier for people. So as it stands today, this is where we currently are. You can prompt and design front end in a no-code way. You have backend options to streamline data, and then you can create contracts that are self-audited. So that's all cool, but we want to go bigger. So we want people to be able to upload diagrams that they might be able to map out. It's like I might not have the language for the application that I want to build, but I can draw out the user flow. If you can draw out the user flow, upload it, we'll be able to begin unraveling what that could look like in code and give you a sneak peek of what UI could look like as well. That's what's coming next. More backend customization is coming. And then I'm really excited for this, templates for starter contracts. In the Web3 space, there are a lot of things that people could do. Tokenization of real world assets, depend, a lot of things that are cutting edge or bleeding edge even. But if we're able to have templates for certain things like NFT smart contract or DAO smart contract or something like that, it's going to help save even more time. So this is what's going to be available to people as of Q3. So technically our public beta is going to be live as of May 20th, but the full-on rollout is going to be in the month of June. So stay tuned for that. So no later than Q3, we want to have these things integrated. And then, as I mentioned, as of next year, we're going to have automation for certain backend pieces. We're going to have Lightning support and Bitcoin L1 support, where you can spin up applications on the L1 or spin up applications that integrate Lightning coupled with stacks, which would then complete the trifecta at this stage of a Bitcoin layer, a side chain, and then being able to build in a no-code environment at the L1. But all of the AI prompts, training our AI to think like you all want it to think like a no-code dev. And then it's going to be able to create drag and drop components where you can prompt and then certain things will be suggested and you'll begin to literally ideate in a drag and drop visual manner of what the app could look like. And with this, if you want to be a part of the ground floor where we're building up this skyscraper that's going to help onboard no-code development and take it to the next level, leveraging Bitcoin layers, this is the way to do so. So if you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to our lifetime pass section. And we've cut our supply, we've cut it again, we've cut it again. So at this stage, there will only be 100 lifetime passes for NoCodeClarity. So as you saw with the roadmap, it's going to get really robust. It's going to get really crazy and cool. And there are some benefits with it. So not only will there be private town halls where you all can give suggestions to the team regarding certain things or even feedback, and we can even potentially help you build certain things if you're running to some roadblocks by way of suggestions and things like that. But once you start getting to the space of saying, hey, I've designed my front end, I've set up my back end, I want to launch a smart contract. Stacks has been growing in velocity of price action and things like that. So one stack at this stage might not be what one stack looks like next year. As a lifetime pass holder, you get to deploy smart contracts for free. So anything that's spent on deployment, we will reimburse you for. So that in and of itself is a huge value add, especially considering the velocity of stacks as an L2 is really going to grow, which means that in order to deploy, it might cost more by way of that transaction fee. So keep that in mind. Now, also from the standpoint of community, which we're very big on, I mentioned earlier, Paula is one of our mods. We also have another mod, Mr. Wagme. Our community is starting to really grow. So if you want to just be a part of the conversation, if you want to join and just kind of follow along, scan this QR code or go to this link, app.console.xyz/c/NoCodeClarity.
I just dropped that into the chat. So that's in the chat now as a link.
Paula's doing mod things even on Zoom. So there you go. But yeah, I pretty much live here unless like I'm sleeping or with my wife and kids. But yeah, I'm very active. The team is going to be joining in soon. They've just been focused on building and making sure that V0 is proper for our OG holders and also getting ready for the public to join in as well. And then with that, I want you to remember this about NoCodeClarity. We're leveraging AI on Bitcoin and Bitcoin layers in a no-code environment to help you launch. So when you think of NoCodeClarity, think AI, Bitcoin, no-code, launch. That's it. So with that, thank you so much. And I will stop sharing now. I will answer any questions that you all may have. And thank you again for your time. Truly appreciate it.
Chris has his hand up there, but just before we go to Chris, I'm just going to read out some of the comments. Rins has said, guess it's similar to AI prompts. You have to understand and be specific to get the most out of it. And then Rins says, this looks amazing. I love how it teaches at the same time. There is a question in there from Siri, which I'll come back to in a second. And another comment, makes the most sense for AI and blockchain to be paired with Bitcoin. Excellent. Chris, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's called no code, but it is code. It's based on AI. Is that a correct interpretation?
Great question. So when we say no code, someone has coded. You might not have to code, but someone has coded.
Is it robust comparative to real programmers?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
With the AI based coding, is it robust comparative to what, say, a real programmer would come up with?
It's a great question. So I'll answer that in two ways. The CEO of NVIDIA was asked a question in reference to should people still learn how to program? And he went on record to say no, because AI is going to far exceed this. We can look at the fact that Microsoft acquired GitHub and then GitHub launched Copilot, which is interesting and had developers scared because Microsoft and GitHub had access to some of the world's most complicated repositories code-wise. And then they launched this AI tool that was similar to how these programmers would code. And it's still, rather early. And then you have obviously Meta with their open source model. You have ChatGPT, you have Anthropic. A buddy of mine who knows some people at Anthropic said that GPT-5 is AGI, which is like artificial general intelligence, where it can begin to think on its own. And people are starting to really worry about it. So I think that with that being stated, is a computer or is software at the point where it can beat, if I can put it that way, a human developer? It depends on what's being built. There are certain things that I think AI is just really good at, but it's not able to compete with the human as of yet. Within anywhere of like this time frame of 2 to 5 years, and that's me being conservative. I think it's like 6 months to 2 years, to be honest. I think it's going to be able to give a human a run for its money. And that's where we're gonna be able to leverage this and say that, okay, if I can't beat AI, someone that understands AI is probably going to beat me. So I need to, in some capacity, have exposure to AI, have understanding of it, be able to automate while still building up my high value skill. And I'll take it a step further. Yes, it does require some understanding to be a no-code developer of code in general, but no-code developers, by and large, they're making proper salaries, anywhere from like 30,000, and this is like global. So in certain emerging markets, $30,000 is life-changing money, but anywhere from like 30,000 to almost $200,000 per salary, depending on the role as a no-code developer. So there's something to be stated about having an understanding, but still being able to have an output in a non-technical fashion.
I think your major roadblock you'd be running into is the ethical question. No code was who's generated, who's responsible and accountable for it.
Yeah, and when you speak on ethics, could you say more about that?
Well, people putting ideas together that wouldn't service mankind so much.
Understood. Yeah, so, and that's the hardest part, I think, about being in a decentralized space where
Or sorry, I should have said
that,
humankind. Beg your pardon. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I should have said humankind, sorry. Service human.
Yeah. So all things considered, yeah, the point I was going at, being in a decentralized space, if something is created and put on chain, then it's going to live on there forever, and no one can necessarily take that off. So we try to assume proper intent with people, but there are some people like in what's, I forget the official Batman movie, where the butler told Bruce Wayne, some people just want to watch the world burn. So there are some of those bad actors that do exist out there. So I think that from the ethics standpoint, obviously we'll be monitoring what the AI does, and we'll be able to streamline and see like who's building what within the platform. But if something deploys on chain, like our hands are tied. Obviously, we can reach out to people and say, hey, just checking in, wanted to see if we can have a conversation if they're like doing some nefarious things. But generally speaking, in our community at this standpoint, there's not any bad actors. As the community grows, I think the thing is we're probably just gonna have to be watchful for those people.
It sounds like it needs a lot more thought because you'll see the governments stepping in and frustrating it once it hits a certain level, because
Yeah,
you do have bad actors, unfortunately. My other
yeah,
question is, how much funding have you had so far?
yes.
And is it US based funding? Are you US based headquarters?
Yeah, US based for now. We do have an international team, so we all work remotely. And at this point, we're wondering, even though we're not necessarily crypto specific, um, we have like the software development angle. It's not like we're an exchange or a wallet or anything like that. Um, they're still kind of putting our industry in a scope. So it makes us wonder, should we locate abroad? But at this point, from the funding aspect, we've been bootstrapped and we've leveraged grants, um, six-figure amounts, so roughly like $200,000 worth of grant funding. And that's allowed for us to literally just focus on R&D, building this thing out, making sure that we're able to serve our users in our community. And with that, we're open to investment, we're open to funders. It just has to be, the proper partnership. But upon finding that, we're happy to do it. But even to take it a step back to the question that you had, there are certain parameters that we can put within the training model of the AI where if certain things come up, we can flag it and be like, well, we can't, generate that contact support. And that's where that human loop factor into the creation could come into play, which at least for now, we just want to monitor and see how users are using this thing, since we're not even like 72 hours live with our private holders of the lifetime passes. But as it grows and goes public, then we'll implement some of those things.
Really? I'm involved with the Global Entrepreneurs Program. I've spoken to Paula, and if you're interested in the headquarters in the UK, then maybe you could go through Paula and I can give you further details.
Okay, that's cool. I might be in London in September for like a short trip, so perhaps that could work out. But yeah, Paula has my information, and I'm happy to connect.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I can tell you more about that, Christopher, and
Cool.
put you in
Cool,
touch.
cool beans.
Okay.
The chat is on
Other
fire. Whoa.
Yeah, the chat has been on fire. So if we scroll back up, the question that I said I'd come back to, let me just find it again. Can we feed it a website? But I think you kind of answered that later on, saying you're going to be able to upload images as such. But can we feed it a website and ask it to build something similar?
Coming soon. Coming very,
Coming
very
soon.
soon.
Excellent. Any more questions that I had skipped over? Loads of great comments. Rin said, I think the people who study coding will be better positioned to understand. I would agree with that. If you understand coding, you have a lot better chance with no code. So just understanding the workflow even. Yeah, it does give you a better chance. And I know, Chris, you said there a few minutes ago that it was said, there's not really going to be too much point in learning coding moving forward. But for some of us, if we don't understand what AI is spitting out to us, it's useless. So we're going to need to learn to understand it anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that. And if I can just lean in a little bit more, I think that there's something to be stated about awareness. So if I were a billionaire and I had a jet, I probably would learn how to fly the plane because that's generally the mode of transportation that I'm used to. Just like we were generally taught, like, oh, if you have a car, you need to get oil changes, you need to get gas, you need to maintenance the thing that is your vehicle of going from point A to point B. For some people, they might not ever buy a jet in their lifetime. Some might not ever buy a car. If I ride the bus, I need to understand how I'm supposed to hold this transfer ticket. If I'm doing subways, there needs to be some sort of understanding if this is the modes of transportation. So if your idea is being transferred from your brain to a computer in some capacity, you need to understand the mechanics of that. You don't need to be Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey, but being able to understand certain frameworks is going to be really helpful as you journey along. And for some of you all who might be thinking, oh, well, I can, just get some money and then pay someone to do it. unless they are truly people of integrity. They might not ever tell you this process, but I'll tell you really quickly. So I know of people who've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with dev shops, some overseas, and the process is generally like this. You meet a whole bunch of times, you get a scope of work, you put a deposit down, they build this thing out, and you're thinking it's going to come out one way, but then it's going to come out a different way. And then every feature that you have is going to add anywhere from 2 weeks up to several months to integrate, even though you think that it might be a simple feature. So you're going to end up spending more time and more money, and it might not look the way that you want it to look unless you know exactly what to say. Because a dev is only going to give you what it is that they're reading. They're not going to be able to interpret what it is that you're thinking, what you meant to say. And that's nothing, bad on the dev shops. There are certainly some really reputable ones. We have an agency, so like prior to launching this, we were able to build things out for people. So we understand that flow, but for the founder that might be non-technical, it's very frustrating because you might not have a huge bankroll or a treasure trove or a war chest to glean into. You might only have like $5,000 or $2,000, $30,000, and that has to get you something that you can get to users so you can get your money back. You would benefit from learning a little bit of what HTML can do, how to change colors, how to tweak things. Doesn't mean you have to be a full-on programmer, but having some sort of awareness. If we do it for cars, we have to for sure do it for our ideas. We understand bank statements because we deal with banks, because we have money, because we need money to live. Same thing, same premise. And to be honest, it's really not that cumbersome. And obviously a platform like NoCodeClarity can help people as they're building get familiar, like, oh, I don't know what this exactly means, but this looks familiar. That's the best place to start. We want you to get familiar with things.
That story you shared about the dev shops is an exact experience that I had when I launched my first business back in 2008. And I went to a dev shop and I was like, build this. And I really thought they were going to use their initiative and say to me, well, that won't work and that won't work. So you need to do this. And they gave me back exactly what I asked for. Exactly. And I was so fucking disappointed. So look, we're running short on time. Has anybody got any more questions for Christopher before I do a little giveaway? No questions. Okay, well look, you can all download the chat. All of Christopher's contact details are there in the chat. There's a link also to the NoCodeClarity community that you can join. But what we're going to do now is a really quick giveaway. Now, what I have to give away tonight is 2 passes for NoCodeClarity. They're weekly passes that will be activated around the 20th of May, Christopher, yeah? Yeah. Now, when you use these passes, you'll be able to mint your contracts and all that sort of stuff. And the fees are paid on them. Isn't that right as well? On them once for the week.
Yep.
Yeah. So everything that you do on the platform for the week will be free. So you can try it out. And we've got 2 passes for that to give away. So I need to share my screen. Share screen. Can everybody see this? I assume so. So I've made the most sophisticated randomizer you can ever imagine. Totally no code solution. I am going to do a random function in here, ran between 1 and 12 because there's 12 people there. And whoever gets number 1 and number 2 are going to walk away tonight with the passes, and I'll send them onto the wallets. So we didn't get a number 1, so I have to hit it again. There we go. We got 4 number 1s that time. Oh God, this is the most craziest generator ever. Okay, we have a number 1 and we have a number 2. Siri number 2, Blue Cab number 7. You both are going to be getting these in your wallet. So they're NFTs. And if you go to the NoCodeClarity community, we can talk you through how to actually access the platform and all with them. So I'll send them on later on, in not too long from now, so in about 15 minutes from now, they'll be all sent on. So I'm going to stop the share. Just a quick comments in there. Everybody saying thank you very much for everything. Michael, if you download the chat, you should be able to get all of the links from the conversations beforehand, because you're asking for the links again. So there's 3 dots there. If you click on them, it should have a save chat option, and you'll be able to save the chat with all of the links and then access them from there. Gordon said he had to go. Oh, he's hosting the Daxty grant program, so he's running off to that. And Nash said thank you very much for this as well. So to everybody that's come, I know lots of people have actually come in, from a couple of people from Australia this morning, so it's 5, 6 o'clock in the morning over there now. So thank you all very much for attending. To everybody else, we'll see you back here next Thursday, where we'll be having our general crypto chat, and we'll be also brainstorming on a sustainability idea for VBetter DAO as a community. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you all next week. Bye now.
Thank you. Cheers, grazie.
Bye, everybody. See you,
Bye.
John.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Electra. Thanks very much. Chris. See you, Siri. I'll send on your prize. Leo, Neil, Rins, I'll talk to you in Telegram. I know you're looking for help with some stuff. Sam, thank you very much as well for coming in. Sam is from Stacks Labs. If anybody's interested in learning Stacks, jump over there. And that's it, really. Oh, I'll stop the recording. Stop the recording.